And joining us live in studio is Meelani Mkhabela. Good evening. Political economist. We have Chris Hart, economist, on the line as well. Good evening to you. Thanks again for joining us. You know, the whole definition around radical economic transformation as laid out by government, how do we make this more tangible, for our viewers to understand?
I think the ANC didn't have a problem with defining clearly what radical economic transformation can be because the platform, from 1994, we know how the programs of the ANC has started. But I think the misdefinition came mainly from some social commentators who could probably try to relate with their interest without understanding what an economy is, because that has an impact. But from ANC point of view, I don't think there's a problem. But some of social commentators, they felt radical economic transformation is how they define it, but there's no way you can speak about radical economic transformation while you are pushing for some changes that are not transformational. So with me, transformation, it has to take place, and that we understand. But the focus of each and every country is growth. And when growth is happening, growth will translate to job creation, and a lot of people that are excluded will be mainstreamed to the economy. That's what almost economic regimes has to take.
But how do you shift or move the conversation from political rhetoric to, especially in the environment, economic climate, we find ourselves in double junk status and a sluggish economy? How do you move it to be more meaningful?
You mean rhetoric?
No, I'm saying the whole economic transformation. Practically speaking, how do you? Practically
all over the world, when you need economy to be doing well, what you focus on, the government has to come up with conducive policies that will make sure that it boosts economic growth in terms of more inviting investors to come into the market. We speak about NHI. For NHI to be realized, you need investors, because the government alone, or from the revenue that we collect, we can't finance the NHI. We have about 12 industrial zones that have been approved by DTI. For those industrial zones to be executed or to be implemented, you need global financiers, or you need institutional investors to come into the market. But when the market is pushing some elements of on the other side, they want radical economic growth. But when they need radical economic growth, but they need to reshuffle and disturb the economy. Mainly, like you find the economy doesn't have social license to operate. Corporates are on the other side, and some social radicalists are on the other side. I think that caused a lot of problems in running a country. Only the president and ministers has to be leading the country, and all the people that are not doing that in favor of the country needs to be called into order.
Oh, all right, let's invite Chris Hart, economist, joins us on the line. Chris, thanks so much for your time. Good evening. Is the government ready to implement a radical economic transformation, primarily considering the legislation that we already have around BBBE, preferential procurement, etc.?
Well, it really depends on what they mean, whether they mean it by economic transfer or economic inclusion. And the two are mutually exclusive. If we're just going to transfer the economy, you find it will not grow. We need to actually to my mind, the biggest challenge, there is no single other bigger challenge in this economy other than to create jobs. If we cannot do that, we will never ever sort out inequality and poverty. The lack of jobs is the key root of that. Now, for that, you need two things. You need to be able to attract capital, in other words, foreign capital. And the reason you need foreign capital is that bring with it foreign technology. South Africa can never match the research and development that takes place in the rest of the world, and that's why We need to be able to import, and foreigners need to invest in here so that we do still keep in contact with the modern economy. But more importantly, we need to be developing our own capital in South Africa. So we've got to develop policies that are supportive of saving and then translating that into investment. We have to...
What are your views on establishing a state bank and to minimize the reliance on rating agencies from the West, as it were, to start a rating agency from BRICS and to essentially deal with the African problems in a uniquely African way?
Well, basically, firstly, Africa dealing with its problems, we don't see many success stories. And the only success stories you really see are countries like Botswana, Rwanda, and Mauritius, and maybe a bit of Ghana, but even there's problems. Basically, they still need external capital. A lot of these problem in Africa is capital formation and channels for investment. And South Africa's got those, but we don't have enough capital formation. So if we don't want the West's capital for whatever reason, okay, then we actually then have to get our own. And that means you cannot have policies that actually target capital formation. As I repeat often, we cannot eat our seeds and then expect things to happen. You have to have investment. There is nobody, no matter on the extreme left, the extreme right, the extreme up, the extreme down, nobody can explain to me how you can grow an economy without capital. It doesn't matter what economic system you've got, whether you've got a state bank or a private bank, it really doesn't matter. You need capital to run it. And well-allocated capital important, especially when you've got a shortage of capital.
Stay on the line. Sorry, Chris. We have Meilane in studio and we're running out of time. The urgency has been established by the ANC, and I think generally we agree there's consensus that economic transformation is necessary, but can it meet the aspirations, especially if we don't dislodge the economy from colonial structures and encourage more inclusive participation?
I don't think the ANC needs to talk about radical economic transformation because it has been doing that from 1994. So what, you see, when now they start to speak about radical economic transformation, it brings a new frog in a market where people who have capital, they don't understand what does this definition now that seemingly is starting to be new with some extremists mean. Because you don't get with definitions that other people they don't understand, and that makes the two opposing views being in a situation of South Africa. You have like the poor economy and the rich economy in one economy. So in that, you will find that there will be a lot of pull-offs. But what the ANC has to do, they don't have to focus on the rhetoric like analysts that are speaking things that they don't even understand. They need to focus in saving the people. They need to focus on growth because ANC is not longer a liberation movement. ANC is leading the economy now. So in leading the economy, they must create jobs so that all the the 60% youth needs to be taken to those jobs so that they can develop their pension funds and have some assets to transfer to the next generation as well.
Yeah, and for everybody to play their role. Yeah. I mean, companies can also introduce profit-sharing schemes so that there is a level of ownership and management in the organizations. But we're going to have to leave it there. Meilane Mkhabela, a political analyst, economist. Correct. And Chris Hart, an economist on the line. Thanks indeed for your time. We'll take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.